Well, hi everybody, and welcome to the Top Corner, a show which always aims for the top corner, but sometimes we'll settle for a double deflection that dribbles in the centre of the goal, because after all, that's football as well. I'm John Dykes, and I'm delighted to be with you once again. This, of course, as I always say, is your show. This is your opportunity to get in touch via the Sony Sports Network on whichever platform suits you, and also, of course, via the phone, as we'd love to hear from you in person, if you can. Those are the numbers to call. It's 022, and then it's 4880-2423 or 2424. We'll remind you of these numbers as the show continues. And as I always like to do, let's whet your appetite with some of the talking points that might just get you phoning in. And even if you don't phone in, you'll be talking about these topics. So with the Champions League on, we're obviously looking at the sides that have caught the eye, and how could you not be impressed by what Napoli have been doing? Spectacular victories against some of the elite clubs in European competition. So what's that all about, and how far can they go? After Napoli, we'll be talking a little bit more about those who caught the eye as well. So Napoli as contenders is one of them, and we'll be moving on to a number of other major topics here. Liverpool, for example. Okay, they picked up a victory in the Champions League, but there's been talk about a disruption to the football club. Do they need fresh ideas and maybe a fresh formation, as we saw last night? Now, one side that doesn't seem to be lacking for ideas or invention or even goals will be Manchester City. And that's why we need to be talking about Haaland, the terrifying prospect that he's getting even better under Pep Guardiola. Yes, we will crunch his numbers, but we'll also try and look into the future as well. And what about the future for Cristiano Ronaldo? Is there to be another big club move now that we understand he is able to leave Manchester United in January? Where does he go? Has he got one big club left in him? We'll also get your thoughts on that via one of our famous polls. Okay, this show is also all about the input of our wonderful guests, and let's get to those guests right now. Delighted to welcome two very familiar faces in terms of our pundits. We have Don Hutchison and we have David James again, and then we also have a Napoli fan joining us from Uttar Pradesh. We have Yogesh. Yogesh, good to have you with us. Just quickly, I'll start off with you. How was your Champions League week, Yogesh? Enjoy yourself?
Unbelievable. It was practically unbelievable that Napoli would be reaching such heights so quickly and with so many major changes across the transfer market. So, yeah.
All right. I want to see that smile on your face non-stop throughout your contribution to our show tonight. Don, just quickly for you, what's your highlight? What was your highlight this week of the Champions League?
I mean, you touch on Napoli. I mean, beating Ajax 6-1. I don't think anyone's seen that scoreline coming. I worked on the Battle of Britain, Liverpool versus Rangers, and Liverpool I thought were really good in the game. Commentated on a crazy game last night for Sony. We were watching Leipzig versus Celtic. That literally could have been 7-6 to anyone. So it's been a brilliant Champions League week.
Yeah, brilliant. David, lastly, same thing for you. Team performance, individual performance, moment of magic. What caught your eye?
Namaste, John. Namaste, everyone. Well, actually, I think Club Bruges or Brugge versus Atletico Madrid. Jugler was outstanding with a couple of bits of inspiration to win that 2-0. And I tell you what, John, Brugge looked like the side that had better chances to win the Champions League. 3 wins out of 3, no goals conceded, first time to qualify. I mean, everything's gone well for them this week.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. They've been great. It's been good to see Dortmund doing what they've been doing as well. Napoli are the team that I think we need to talk about right now. We've been thinking about doing this for some time now. Have a little look at some of these numbers. This is a Napoli side which is absolutely flying on all fronts. Most points and goals in the Champions League and Serie A. Of course, they are absolutely flying domestically. They're unbeaten now in 15 games, winning 13 of those matches. You're going to go all the way back to April to find them slipping up. But the Champions League, they have been scoring goals for fun. First to score 5+ goals away to Ajax, of course, and then you look at what else they've been doing here, and that is incredible to think that it's actually 13 of these goals in 3 matches. That's just unheard of, really, even from some of the more established forces. But for Napoli to be doing this, well, you have to pay attention to them. If we take a little look at Serie A and see what they've been doing there, they don't slip up in Serie A. What they've been doing is they've been putting teams away whenever they have the opportunity to do so. But this is going to be a league in which it's going to be very, very tight. Look at that, just the 3 points separating those top 5 sides, which means that Napoli are going to have to be at their very best if they're going to see off probably the most open title race that we've seen for a long time in the Italian top flight. All right, so there we are. A bunch of stats for you there. Yogesh, I'm going to get to you first of all. Did you, in the closed season, in your wildest dreams, see this coming?
Never. Never, not me, and I don't think so. Any person or any Napoli fan on earth would have thought that we'll be playing at such incredible level and for so long. I mean, like one game against, like, people would have thought like beating Liverpool, they were on that form. Okay, it's one off, but like consistently, as you said, like 15 games non-stop, and like the entire team is contributing. It's not just that Kiwicha is coming in and he's just scoring all the goals. Victor Osimhen is actually our star player. He's not available for quite some time, for more than a month now, and we are still crunching out victories massively. So it has been a staggering team performance overall.
You know, what struck me as being the amazing thing about this was that they ended up doing profitable business in the transfer market, yet Napoli have been synonymous with significant departures for some time now. But this past summer was an absolutely huge turning point. There was a reset being done by them. When you consider Kalidou Koulibaly, who was really the beating heart of the football club for so very, very long, going to Chelsea, where we find him now. When you look at perhaps Dries Mertens and certainly Lorenzo Insigne, you're looking at, you know, over plus 30-year-olds, which will have been a factor in their departure, but also really the old guard, you know, the seniors there. Fabian Ruiz to PSG for a reasonable amount of money, maybe a little bit more, was I think the other one that caught my eye. But when you see players like that going out, and then you take a little look at those who come in and the way that they've worked, well, that is a mark of absolute genius. And you have to start wondering where this has come from, because that performance in terms of getting what we've seen out of, okay, we're going to talk about Kvaratskhelia in just a minute, because I think a lot of clubs were tracking him, and so maybe we shouldn't be too surprised. But Raspadori, who will effectively, I mean, it's a loan with an obligation to buy. He's just been sensational. Giovanni Simeone at 27 years old, you know, we might have thought, is he going to get any better? And I think Anguissa has been sensational. We've seen that all the way through the season. But then the likes of Kim Min-jae coming in from Fenerbahce, you know, this is a guy who'd been playing, I think, in China for 3 seasons. Ndombele, well, that's all you need to say. I mean, he at best a different spell with Tottenham Hotspur. Oliveira, look at his contribution in the most recent game that we've seen. Don, I think when you look at a club and you see the quality of the players that left, but also more than that, the fact that they were just building blocks, they were cornerstones of the football club. For them to be able, as a club, to get that so right in recruitment, that's remarkable, isn't it?
It is, John, and it must have been hard for Napoli fans watching the likes of Dries Mertens and Insigne leave the football club, 2 guys that have been there for a long time, 2 legendary players. But I think they were a little bit one-dimensional when them 2 were in the same side. 2 fantastic players, don't get me wrong, but Father Time was starting to catch up to that pair, and they needed the injection of Kvaratskhelia. They needed the injection of Raspadori. They needed something different, because Micro Sarri had this team nearly go into a Scudetto a couple of years ago, but they weren't quite getting over the line. I think with Spalletti this season, and you mentioned all the players that have come in, all the players that have left, the coaching ability to get Frank Anguissa scoring goals, you know, to take Ndombele, which is still a big risk, to have these guys playing at a certain level, that tells me the coaching methods that he's doing behind the scenes to give them confidence, because they're elite players. Doesn't matter where they're playing. Just because you've bombed somewhere else and you're successful somewhere else doesn't mean you're a bad player. You're just suffering for a little bit of confidence. But the work that Spalletti's doing is absolutely remarkable. As you said, unbeaten. They've got Cremonese, Bologna next 2 games. There's a chance they're going to stick another 6 points on the board. Juve play Milan at San Siro this weekend, so one of them 2 are going to drop points. So everything's looking amazing for Napoli fans at the moment.
Yeah, I think the guy that you need to remember, sporting director Cristiano Giuntoli, is the one who deserves a pat on the back for some of that business that's been done. Let's talk a little bit about the Georgian Maradona, or whatever it is you want to call this guy, because, I mean, when we look at the form, right, of Kvaratskhelia and you know, time in Serie A and also in the Champions League, this is a guy who I'm going to be. I want you guys to be honest, because I'll be brutally honest with you. Even though I read that he was being scouted by some major clubs, this guy who is basically a walking highlights reel with 6 goals, 4 assists. Look at the chance creation and dribbling there. I wasn't aware of him. He wasn't on my radar maybe a year ago, David. I'm not sure if he was on your radar at all. But now that you've seen him in action, what makes this guy so exciting? He's just electric every time I see him play.
He is, John, and I've had a good look at him. I had a good look at him this afternoon, at least, and what I find interesting, he's a cross of many older players. He's a bit like Paul Merson in the sense that he loves his right foot. A bit like Diaz in a modern context, that he doesn't mind taking players on. When he crosses with left foot, it's not as competent, but he's direct. He's very skillful. He's small in stature. He's very quick. In fact, he holds that pace as well. I think one of the goals he scored recently was from the halfway line, ran pretty much all the way down into the box and slotted it in. Don probably knows the team it was against. So he's got so much going for him, John. The one thing I would say, we're early on in the season, and a little bit like I mentioned Diaz from Liverpool there, there'll come a time where teams start working him out, and then he's going to have to do something different. But at the moment, John, if he's on form, he's pretty much unplayable.
I think, geopolitical situation, speeded his departure and availability, and there were a number of things, Yogesh, fell into place. But again, same thing. Come on, honestly, were you aware of this player when the player joined the club? Were you wowed by this? Did you, in any way, as a fan base, have any sense that this guy was going to be somebody we would be talking about relatively such a short time into this season?
No, not at all. So if I roll back a little, Insigne announces a retirement from Napoli in January of this year, and Cavaradonna's arrival was announced much before the season end, around April end or May. We didn't know this guy. We had seen some of the clips, but they were in leagues which are what can I say? But him just coming in, fitting right over with the team, and he had to replace Lorenzo Insigne. He was the captain, El Capitano for us for so many seasons, and the flag bearer. So coming in, replacing him, and Insigne cannot be forgotten. But on the pitch, he has been absolutely no one would have expected to him to fit in so quickly and so brightly, and just keep on beating opponents, taking opponents, and doing his best every time he touches the ball, every time he's on the field.
Don, just quickly, who else? You watch Serie A on a regular basis as well as the European competitions, with Osimhen, who I know you absolutely love as a player, out ever since, I think it was that Liverpool game, wasn't it? First half of that Liverpool game. I know others have taken their opportunities. Who name me one or two that you think are key to this successful season for Napoli so far?
Oh, I think Lobotka in the middle of the park, John. I think Napoli are not the same side when he's not in the side. Zielinski, another. A player at left back who I love, Mario Rui. He's as tough as they come. He's not big in stature, but he gets wired in. Typical sort of Spalletti player. And when you've got these players like Kvaratskhelia in front of Mario Rui, it's almost like you couldn't handpick a better left back for him. Just to say, you go and do your stuff. You just go and work your magic. I will nail anyone that comes down our right-hand side, and I will find you every time. He's a terrific crosser of the ball. But what you're looking at, I think, with the Napoli side for the first time in a long time, John, is they're looking like a real team and a real squad. There's no, I don't think there's any, and take this loosely, there's no superstars in their side. So they're working hard as a team, even though Kvaratskhelia is going in the right direction to be one. I think you're looking at a side that just are willing to graft for every single point.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit of an Atalanta vibe at times, just thinking about, it's the ethos, isn't it, as much as anything there. Let's talk about Spalletti. Spalletti's always been a fascination to me. I think since the Roma times, the first spell, I think things with Totti got a little bit tricky in the second one. We've seen him trot around. I wonder if he ever gets the credit he deserves. In fact, people don't seem to think he's won anything, but there were a couple of Italian Cups. There were a couple of trophies during his time in Russia. So that did happen. But what is it about Spalletti that you think, Yogesh, is working here? Because I've told you about the behind the scenes thing. We've spoken about the recruitment and everything like that. But he seems to be adventurous where he needs to be adventurous. He's pragmatic, we know, when he needs to be. But this is a team that is suddenly playing with such abandon and scoring goals. Have we seen a reinvention of Spalletti himself, do you think, at this football club?
Yeah, very much. So Spalletti's appointment was not the very popular choice when he came in, but the calmness and the quiet confidence that he has been able to inject into the club, into the players, right? As he mentioned, Lobotka was on the fringes of the squad. He has been reborn. Anguissa came in at the last day of the last season, and he has been complete. He stepped up his game last season, but this season he's kind of unplayable. So just putting in that much confidence in players and making them do better and making them believe that they can play much better than this. And even after this victory, telling them to keep a hold of it. We have not achieved anything. You don't win trophies in September and October. So
there you go.
That has been exceptional from Spalletti.
2 feet firmly on the ground. Right, come on then. Let's use a modern day buzzword of some repute. Sustainability, JMO. Sustainability. Does it apply to Napoli? Are they going to be able to stay the course domestically and in the biggest European competition?
I think, I mean, what Don said was very, I think, apt with regards to preparation, what Spalletti's done with his team. When you look at the Champions League, you mentioned a number of goals, but in both the Liverpool game and the Ajax game, they scored 3 goals in the first half, which is basically more like Liverpool than anyone else, if you like, in the sense that they go out quick, they score goals, by which time they battered the opposition, and then they might add to that in the second half. Against Rangers, it was 3 second-half goals. So I think the ethos is about a side which, they're going to go for it hard, and if you can't stand up to it, they're going to break you down. But what I do like, and what's his name now? Anguissa, forgive me, as Don said. I've been watching some of his footage. I mean, when you've got the quality up front, he comes in, supports. He's like Frank Lampard. He arrives at the right time. Everything looks like it's timed, it's planned. You're not just relying on quality players just making it up as they go along. And as long as they can keep to the plan and keep the right players fit, John, yeah, of course, why not? They can go all the way, because what we're seeing at the moment is replicable. It's just when it goes off plan, then we'll see what happens. But as I say, at the moment, they're a fantastic team to watch. And I have to give a big head up to Merritt in goal as well. That guy's top draw. 25 years old, he is top draw.
Yeah, they said he didn't have a personality, but I don't mind that too much, to be honest with you, the way he's working. Yogesh, we're a bit tight for time on this segment, but I want you to finish this part up. I know Don's going to have plenty of time over the weeks to come to talk about Napoli, but Yogesh, what I liked about them is I think it was Torino who always make it tough for anybody. What Napoli did was they just blew them away, blitzed them early on, and ended up winning 3-1, I think it was. And that, for me, makes it look as if they could be sustainable in Serie A. Do you think they've got what it takes to win the league?
I hope so. We are very superstitious. Napoli fans are very superstitious. We don't like to say the Scudetto, but it's a long road. And let's see, the trophy will be won in June. We have done an explosive start. And I believe with this confidence and with this set of players, if they keep their feet on the ground and they keep their heads at the right place, I think this is a season to achieve something really big and really massive for the
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Well, thanks for the optimism there. Listen, you got Spalletti invoking Maradona, so there you go. I mean, maybe it is a hark back to those glory days. Yogesh, thanks very much for coming on and showing your passion and your support and insights. Really appreciate that. Take care of yourself, and who knows, maybe we'll talk again later on this season as Napoli continue to blaze a trail domestically and in Europe. All right, more from Don and David in just a moment. We need to start talking about their former club, Liverpool, in the wake of Jurgen Klopp's appearance in which he spoke to the whole of India via the Sony Sports Network. Are we going to see people turning into believers at a time when it seemed that there was a bit of doubt growing around the Merseyside club? That's next.